Good morning, everyone. President Livingston here, and we're back with our new installment of Conversations from Stritch. I'm here with Dr. Christopher Sent, our provost, and we're excited to be back after taking a week off for the Memorial Day weekend. Hopefully all of you enjoyed your Memorial Day weekend and were able to find some way to both social distance, but also be with family and friends and barbecue and enjoy. It is good to be, actually for me, it's been a couple weeks since I've been back on campus, so it's really good to actually be back on campus. The flowers are blooming. Some of you may have seen some of Brother Peter's posting of different flower beds on campus. So if you ever want to see what campus looks like, there's some great photos that are being taken on a regular basis. I wanted to say a few things in general as we start today's conversation, a little bit about what we're going to try to do today. So the kind of topics for the day: at the beginning, we're going to talk about the move to Phase 3 in terms of the State of Illinois Restore Illinois plan that we're planning on going into in the next few days. And Dr. Sent's going to talk a little bit about, for those of you who haven't looked at your email this morning, you received an email from Dr. Sent, and Chris sent some ideas about what that's going to mean in terms of the move to Phase 3, and we'll talk about that a little bit more this morning. And then in the kind of second half of the program today, we'll be talking with Kathy Slattery and Fred Gandy about the return to campus in the fall, and especially issues around housing and questions that we know that students and families have regarding those kinds of issues. So as we start, I just wanted to say a few things myself. One, about how excited we are as we continue to plan for the fall. It's, as I've said in past weeks, we approach this with humility. There's many things that will change over the next 13 weeks. We have about 13 weeks before the first day of classes. And we know a lot will change, but we also are very excited and are spending a ton of time planning for all the different ways in which the campus will come back to life. As we move into this Phase 3 plan, Dr. Sent and several groups on campus have been thinking about what that means for employees and for some of our students. There's a few student groups who are impacted with this change, and he'll talk about that. But Chris, maybe you could talk a little bit about what the letter that you sent out this morning kind of writ large talks about, and then maybe some of the specific issues. There's really not much changing. The reality of what's going on is not much is changing. And there are a few things that are changing that we want to make sure we emphasize.
Yes, that's right. So hello, everyone. Great to be with you. And I agree, it is really wonderful to be back at this beautiful campus here in the end of May. So I did send a letter out today to the community regarding the shift from Phase 2 to Phase 3 in alignment with the Restore Illinois plan that will go into effect tomorrow. But President Livingston is correct. We are not really changing a whole lot. I will go through a list of a few things here. For most people, this will have no impact on their day-to-day work. Most work is still virtual, and instruction is still planned to be online for the summer sessions. We will have some new processes starting next week in alignment with the Phase 3 workplace recommendations regarding face covering, social distancing, minimizing contact, hand washing and sanitation stations, and health monitoring. Most of this, I'm sure, is not surprising to people, but we will be providing more specific guidelines for our work community, our employee community, since they have become more concrete with the Restore Illinois recommendations. We do have two areas that will be opening up a little bit over the next month. One is our undergraduate research experience program, our SHORE program that takes place every summer, which is essentially a faculty research project done in alignment with undergraduate research assistants or research partners. And so that will be happening. Much of it is virtual this summer. but there will be some limited exposure to our science labs in a socially distanced, controlled way across the campus starting next week. And then slightly larger operation, our aviation flight and maintenance programs will resume the parts of the program that are connected to FAA certifications, most of which was what we were not able to do in May and April. So students graduated, but still have some requirements left for certification. So we're prioritizing those students, but we hope to continue to do flight and maintenance through the summer for all students in the new way that we've laid out. So those students will be, have already been contacted, but students who are engaged in one of those two areas have already been contacted by their programs and have plans for coming to campus, and lots of pages of guidelines about how to prepare for that.
Yeah, so for people who, for students out there or for parents who have been in conversation about when you might get your flight hours in, or are you still going to be able to do that SURE program, you should have been contacted already. But if you have questions, please reach out to the director of those programs. If you have a specific professor you were going to do summer research with, you can reach out to them directly. If you're in the flight program, you can reach out to the aviation department. Just to let people know, there is still a check-in as you come onto campus. So, you know, it's not to try to prevent anybody from coming on campus per se, because we know that people who are going to be in aviation, students and faculty in that area, as well as the summer research program, they'll be coming in, but you'll just be checking in. There's a lot of guidelines that we'll talk about more as we move through. The other thing that I would say, and again, this may be for, I'll say this about some of our current students who are on, or even for those of you that are faculty or staff that are watching, but a neighbor or a friend or a cousin is maybe interested in Lewis but hasn't been on campus, starting in 2 weeks, we will be having families be able to do tours, both a tour just in a car, where you'll be able to drive around and see different stations. There's 12 different stations. There's a little audio program that'll go with that, and so you can kind of see the campus, or you can get an individual family tour. And so as you're talking to people in the community, if you're a current student and your cousin is considering coming to Lewis in the fall, or maybe you know, wants to put it into the mix because they were going to be going further away, there are opportunities for tours. We haven't been doing that up until this point, but starting the second week of June, that will be up and running, and so you can contact the admissions office and schedule a tour of campus if you'd like to do that. Again, you'll be checking in at the top of the hill right in front of the LRC, but you're welcome to come and tour campus. So we're excited about all of that, and the kind of, you know, we're so proud of our campus that it's exciting to show it off, and that is a big part of our normal summer, and so we're excited to have that return. So Chris, as we talked about at the beginning, another aspect of this is the planning that has gone into, and you know, it's not done by any stretch of the imagination, but we have done a lot of work. And so we have a couple guests with us this morning, as I mentioned earlier. So maybe you want to introduce them, and maybe introduce in general the topic of the day around issues of, you know, residence life and students returning to campus, and how we're approaching that.
Okay, I might just say a couple of other things by way of transition into the residence life focus that we have today. As we said, we have been working a lot on the transition into phase 3. We did receive some questions about kind of longer term planning around experiential learning. Everything I mentioned really is in that category of experiential learning practices. We plan to continue those through the summer, as well as do them in person in the fall as part of our fall plan we talked about last time. So some people did write in and asked, you know, especially in the programs that are heavily connected to experiential learning like flight, you know, will we be able to stay on track and so on? And our plan is certainly 100% that students will be able to have those experiences, get those hours in. The clinical partners are also always changing, and as we've said many times, our relationships with them are dependent on sort of them allowing us into their clinical experiences or their schools and what have you, but those are really opening up as well. So we're optimistic that students will have all those complete experiences starting in the summer, but progressively as things go on. The other thing that's really been happening is that we are intensely working on the fall schedule in alignment with what we announced a couple of weeks ago. I just wanted to mention that. I feel like every week I have something rises to the top of my gratitude list, and so particularly this week I'm thinking a lot about certainly Dr. Rapp, who we met a couple weeks ago, is overseeing this huge effort. The deans of the colleges and the chairs of the departments, as working with our amazing faculty who are being extraordinarily patient and flexible as we plan the schedule, have just been doing incredible work to shift our planned fall schedule into the in-person, hybrid, and online formats that we're planning for the fall. And I just wanted to just really thank them, but especially everyone who's working in the registrar's office is not only transitioning through graduation and certifying degrees from the spring semester and getting the summer started, which is always hard, extra work of processing all of the pass-fail changes that were requested at the end of the spring semester, and now completely refitting our fall schedule into all of our classrooms, which have new capacities and so on due to social distancing. And so just incredible amount of work that those people are doing to prepare for the fall semester. We did get a couple questions from faculty about planning, and I just wanted to say that we really do plan to have the schedule finished next week. There won't be a lot of date changes in the schedule in terms of when it's beginning and ending, although there may be some particular day variations. So, but faculty should have that calendar in place by next week, so that they at the end of next week, I should say, so that they can start, plugging in those syllabus dates and so on.
Sure.
So now
Can I just, one other question that, you've said it already, but maybe it's just a matter of re-emphasis. As you said, kind of trying to re-emphasize things. A question, and I guess I want to also say, thank you to Dr. Rapp and to Gil, who's in registrar, all the people that are working on the scheduling stuff. One of the questions that came in ahead of time was about, it says on my schedule that it's an in-person class that runs from, June 1st to July 25th, but you said that's supposed to be online. So again, this, just re-emphasizing, all summer courses are online.
Yes.
Even if noted in some original email that you received in April that it was going to be in person, all those classes are online. And aside from very few experiential things that we've already talked about, aviation and some summer undergraduate research, everybody's course is online. There are new courses that will begin in the second session of summer school. So if you still want to, if you've had a summer course and it's wrapping up after the first summer session and you wanted to do another course, or you've, now have some extra time, certainly there's still availability for summer classes. And when I was talking about the tours for prospective students, that does start on June 8th. So if you do want to talk to a family member or a friend or a neighbor about getting a tour on campus, those start on June 8th. So I'm sorry to stop you right before you introduce Kathy and Fred, but maybe you can then transition into our conversation about the topic for the day, which is kind of residential life and what that means for students coming back to campus.
Great. We were thinking maybe for the next 2 weeks we would focus a little bit on the student experience that we have planned for the fall semester especially. And so we're going to focus today particularly on residence life, and then focus a little bit more on the kind of student activities and student life experiences and student support that we have planned for the fall semester. So let me introduce Kathy Slattery, our Associate Provost for Student Services and our Dean of Students, as well as Fred Gandy, our Director of Residence Life, who are going to talk through a little bit of the plan for the residence halls for the fall. So hi, Kathy.
Welcome, Kathy and Fred. Really glad that you were able to join us today.
Good morning. It's good to be here, and it's exciting to talk about students coming back.
It is.
Yes.
I agree. I'm very excited to be here today.
Fred, it's
Hi,
good to
Fred.
see your face.
I know. It's good to see you guys too. I wish I could hug you, but we're virtually hug right now. There we go.
Great. So I'm not sure who's planning on going next, but Kathy, I think, is maybe going to talk us through some of the major points of our residence hall plan, or maybe it's you, Fred, but go ahead and give us what you have.
Okay. I think some slides are going to come up.
Yeah, so the residence life slide is up, that first one.
Okay. All right, so if you're looking at the first slide here, just to kind of give you some background knowledge, there's been a lot of meetings that have taken place with our CEPT, and also we have a separate housing group that has been meeting weekly to kind of go over what these plans will look like to bring students back on the campus in a housing capacity. We also have been consulting various groups, the American College Health Association, ACUA-I, which is the National Housing Association, and then I've been meeting with local directors across the area just to talk about what the plans looks like and how do we bring students back to the campus. So if you look at the first slide, the decision that we've come up with is to have a limited capacity, so not our full capacity that we have currently, but just kind of limited in a way, and I'll talk through some of these bullet points. The first is all traditional residence halls would be single rooms, and when you think of a traditional residence hall, you think of that in the variety of what a bathroom looks like. So that's a community bath, 20, 30 people on the floor to share a bathroom. So we looked at all of those to say, how do we limit the exposure to various people across campus? And one of the ways is to create single occupancy. So you take that floor and kind of cut it in half. So if you think about our buildings that we have on campus, will be St. Charles, Romeo South, Ryan, Cody, and De La Salle would be the upperclassmen halls that we have limited to single occupancy. And one of the things that we look at, Founders Hall, Shields South, and De La Salle South would be our first year halls. And one of the things that we're looking to do in the first year halls is to kind of limit people. We know students come in with various groups that they want to live with, people that they know from back home that they want to be roommates with, athletes, various people that they meet throughout classes. So what we're going to do is kind of limit in regards to housing people, we're going to house people within those groups. So we're first going to look at major, our cornerstone seminar class. We're going to look at athletics, and then those students that have come in that have roommate requests, we're going to try to room them next to each other so that they can still build that community with the people that they want to be around. One of the driving decisions that we talked about in our decision to limit the single occupancy was, like I said, the bathrooms. And one of the things that we'll do is kind of limit bathroom time. So students will be assigned to a certain bathroom stall. And then we also going to do welcome gifts that will have various solutions that I'll talk about in another slide. And then if you look at the second bullet point, suite style residence hall remain in full capacity. So you think about like our Pope, Mother Teresa, Dorothy Day, one that have their pods that up to six students can live in together. Those would be full occupancy. So you have two doubles, two singles, and those students would be able to share two bathroom stalls and two shower stalls. So that was a driving decision that we came out through all of our meetings, is to have those two. So we'll get our housing capacity to be up to about 980 students that can live on campus during the fall semester. We talked about restrooms and laundry facilities. So one of the things as far as restrooms, we would assign students, we're going to give cleaning solutions. So we're going to increase our cleaning across campus to be able to ensure that our services are very clean. As far as laundry times, we're going to assign various laundry rooms by floor. So if I live on the first floor of Founders Hall, and this is just an example, I could be Monday, Wednesday, Friday from 9 to 12 p.m. That'd be my laundry time. And we have a service on campus called Laundry View that we're really going to push the students to use. And that way you can see what laundry room machines are being used versus like dryers, how much time is left. And that's a product that we have currently on campus, but we really want to promote that so people aren't walking down multiple times knowing that there's no machines open, that they can look on their phone or their computer and see what machines are being open. The fourth point is planning for a dedicated quarantine and isolation space. So we're looking across campus what spaces that we can utilize for if a student is exhibiting symptoms or if they've been exposed to another student that might have COVID-19. We're going to have certain rooms on campus. Our first recommendation for people to be able to go home and isolate at home, but if those students can't return to their home, then we want to identify some spaces on campus that we could really utilize for those students to be able to be on campus during that 14 or 7-day period that our health professionals will guide us by. And that's kind of the first slide. The next one I talked a little bit about as far as enhanced cleaning and sanitizing measures. We're going to do an extended. So right now, a lot of our cleaning happens throughout the day. So working with our Sodexo services and our facility services to extend that. So go from, and these are just examples, like a 6 a.m. to a 12 midnight cleaning schedule to ensure that the bathrooms and common areas are clean throughout the day. Also, one of the things that we want to do is as far as the welcome back package for all resident students to be able to give some type of sanitizing wipes or spray bottle that will have a cleaning solution that will be provided by the institution that they can go through and be able to re-clean. So if I go to the bathroom knowing that it's been cleaned, but if I want to clean it again and clean it after me, we have the solution that could be provided. And those will be provided during the check-in process and also through the RAs that'll be on the floor. So we're going to place disinfectant wipes throughout the residence hall. So on every floor and every entryway, hand sanitizer solutions at the front entryway, but also on the side. We know many students will be able to use the stairwell that they have hand sanitizer as soon as you touch any common spaces across campus. And then community members, we all have to do our part to make it safe and make it in a safe environment. So everybody's going to be asked to clean up after themselves and do some enhanced cleaning as well to help out the professional custodial staff that we have on our campus. So those are the measures that we've been talking about and some of the things that we're going to implement throughout the check-in process and throughout the semester to ensure that all of our halls are sanitized and clean throughout the time of students being here.
So, Fred, one of the questions that just came in just a second ago, we have some other ones that we'll get to later as we talk, but one of the questions that just came in, and either you or Chris could address this because I know in some sense you were somewhat involved, but question from a parent about whether the dorms were used by outside groups this summer, and if they were used, have they been re-cleaned to make sure that when students arrive that they've kind of been sanitized so that a student moves in and it's ready to go. So could you talk a little bit about, I know normally we have summer conferences. We also had some people that stayed on campus that were from outside organizations, or we also had some people who were first responders, but they were not staying in the dorms. They were staying in other parts. So maybe you could just speak to that, and as well as maybe re-emphasizing the cleaning that will happen before day one, because you mostly talked about what will happen week in and week out, day in and day out, but how we're prepping for that return.
Yeah, so to answer your first question, the residence halls have not been used by external groups. We have a small, limited number of students that are here that are either international or that stay with us all year. You talked about some of the students as far as the sure flight students that are going to return back to campus. One of the things that we're trying to do is put those students into their fall assignments so that we don't have multiple moves throughout the summer. So those students that come here for the summer and be in their fall assignment and stay through August. All of our residence halls that have been cleaned, we just finishing up our checkout process. So we have about 10 students that are returning to campus this week to remove their things. And then once everybody's out of their halls and moved, summer housing move starts June 1st, our Sodexo services is going through and sanitizing the entire building. More than half of our residence hall rooms have already been sanitized, and they've also, after they clean, sanitize it, there's a sticker that is placed on every room to seal that it's been ensured that it's been cleaned and the seal hasn't been broken. So once students start to move in, they'll see those signs across the campus on their room to show that it has been cleaned by our Sodexo services on campus.
Perfect. Thank you, Fred. So just to kind of summarize, for me, there was a lot of information there. I think the slides were really helpful, and your comments were really helpful. But in general, for incoming students, they're going to be in singles, and the bathrooms and the lawn, there's a whole host of things that you went through. And for some of the upper class, they're in these suites, and those students know what those suites are like because they know those buildings. Is the sense that you have, I guess, I mean, I know this answer, but I'd like our audience to get this answer, because I know you and Kathy have been on different webinars with different professional services, as well as talking to colleagues and getting best practices. So in the sense of, how does this compare to what other schools are doing and the best practices that we're hearing from different organizations in terms of our approach to returning to a residential university?
I think we're right on line. A lot of our guidance have come from American College Health Association. We talked about CUHO, which is the national organization, governing body for residence life and housing professionals, and we right on line and came out with a checklist. And that's what has been driving our decision, is what the health professionals and what people across the country are doing. So I think we right on line. And the big part about it would be with the cleaning service, so extended cleaning, and then limit the number of use of bathroom, people using the bathroom. That's why we're going to do assigned stalls, assigned times, et cetera. So I think we're right on line with what other institutions across the nation are doing.
Very much. So,
I think
Chris,
we're going to maybe
go
shift
ahead.
to Kathy.
Yeah, that's what I was going to
talk
say.
about
If we want to
some of them.
transition. Yep.
Yeah, I have one more bullet point on the next slide.
Sure.
And
Go
then
ahead.
we'll
Go ahead,
bet.
Fred.
All right.
No worries. So I just really want to talk about what the check-in process has been like. We've gotten several questions. How will I be able to check in? What will I be able to bring? Who can I have? So we want to extend the residence hall check-in process with reserved check-in times. And what that will look like right now, on Wednesday prior, first-year students will move in, and then that Sunday before class to start upperclassmen. What we're going to do is extend our check-in process. So it's going to be a week-long process. There'll be a 3-day check-in window for first-year students, and then there'll be a 3-day check-in window for upperclassmen students. We're going to put that out in July that people can sign up for times. We are going to ask people to limit just to 2 helpers, so a total of 3 from a household can be able to come and help students move in. We are going to ask that they do it in a 2-hour block, and then we are going to ask that they sign up. So we haven't determined exactly how that's going to look, but right now we're thinking about kind of each building to the 4 first-year residence halls. If we think about that 3-day window, will be an alpha split or by floor, so we can limit to maybe 5 or 6 family per floor per day, that they could come and check in and kind of move the people in. We are asking, and we're going to send all this out in a summer mailing that will come out in July. But we're asking people to limit what they bring. And one of we talked about how we've been getting guidance. That's been the guidance from a lot of organizations, is we don't know what that second wave is going to look like in the fall. So we want to, if people, limit the couches and futons and 65-inch TVs just to the bare essentials, so that if we do have to, whatever happened, if you have to go home or et cetera, you're not scrambling like we were this spring to get all your belongings back home. So we are going to send out what those recommendations of what to bring and what not to bring to our campus. All this will come out in the summer mail, and it'll come out the first or second week of July.
Great, thank you. And then Kathy, I know you were going to talk about some other issues, and my sense is, and we're getting some questions that are coming in, which we'll get to after Kathy does her presentation.
Okay, so Fred can take a breath after all that great information. Now we have a sense of how residence hall move-in will go and the added cleaning and sanitizing measures. And there are also some policies and procedures that we're working on to meet public health guidelines and also assure that these policies meet with our community standards philosophy of caring for oneself and caring for others, which are really central to our community standards. Considerations include procedures for entering and exit, among several of the policies that we're looking at, but to name a few, considerations include procedures for entering and exiting the residence halls and special arrangements for lounge furniture, creating clear signage and floor markers to help students feel well-informed and comfortable in their home on campus. Guest and activity policies are being revised to limit outdoor visitors. The number of participants at activities and floor events will be determined by public health guidelines. Social distancing and facial covering practices will be in place. Our campus reopening plans are reliant on all of our community members playing their role. And this is especially true in the residence halls, where in addition to enhanced professional cleaning efforts that Fred early highlighted, to help assure a safe and healthy environment, the residents will really need to assist in keeping common areas, spaces like restrooms and kitchens, help in keeping those areas clean before and after use. The resident assistants are going to be especially trained this fall and will play a significant role in the first few weeks, helping students to build community and navigate what's really our new normal in the residence halls and in the dining halls. So let's talk a little bit about the dining halls, the dining areas. There will be visible and constant cleaning and sanitizing, including the tables after each use. The dining area seating will be adjusted and traffic patterns organized to promote social distancing. The dining services team is creating robust to-go menus and packaged items, providing students with new options and the classic favorites. Order ahead and carry out dining options will be available, and they're exploring call ahead seating as well. We look forward to working with a dining services planning group throughout the semester to evaluate services and make adjustments as needed. Students, as members of the planning group, providing ongoing feedback will be an important part of assuring a quality experience, whether students choose to dine in or carry out. But the student feedback is going to be really essential as we move forward. Keeping students informed is critical, especially at such a significant time of change. Our priority will be to make available to students clear and user-friendly instructions regarding dining options and procedures. We want to make the residence halls and dining halls spaces that students really miss when they're not on campus. We think that's really important, and creating spaces that are fun and welcoming, spaces where students feel a sense of belonging, and that really starts during Welcome Week. So unique to our first year students, this is slide 5. I'm not sure if that's, I don't see it, so it may be there, but there we go. Thank you, John. Unique to our first year students, in addition to students being assigned according to their academic program and the other categories that Fred talked about earlier, but with a focus on their academic program, the Cornerstone Seminar, a class dedicated to first year student orientation, will hold sessions during Welcome Week prior to the start of classes. And this is a great way for our newest students to make friends, connect with faculty, staff, and resources, and have some fun prior to the start of classes, all in the context of practicing social distancing, wearing facial coverings, and within public health guidelines related to group size. We know that's essential to keep at the forefront of all of our planning. The time on campus during Welcome Week this fall will also be a time for all of us to learn the new strategies to navigate campus and stay healthy. In the, excuse me, in the works is a centralized website for programming and activities, as there will be virtual and face-to-face programming and events on campus. The Lewis app is also being further developed to use. A lot of students use the Lewis app already, and we recognize that, so we really want to capitalize that as an opportunity to communicate with students about dining services, student organizations, parent and family communications. Students are currently using the app, and we think there's potential to expand its utilization. Numerous student life departments are currently developing a vibrant virtual student programming experience with face-to-face events, as we're allowed to do so within public health guidelines. More details will come, as Dr. Sint mentioned earlier, in future presentations, and we're very excited to have students back on campus. We miss being with students, and we're very much looking forward to the fall 2020 semester. Now, Fred's going to share a little bit more detail about how to keep abreast of the most up-to-date information regarding housing.
Thanks,
Yeah, so
Kathy.
just,
yeah, go ahead, Fred.
Just the last slide is just for more information. So it's our contact information, how you can reach Resident Sci if you have any question, and that phone is manned throughout the day by myself and also by Jessica, who's our assistant director. We're also going to be, I mentioned earlier, we're going to be sending out a summer mailing that'll come out around the first and second week of July, that'll tell you your room assignment, again, what to bring, what not to bring, and how to sign up for those check-in times. Also, there's going to be an email coming out from myself to all current students that are registered for housing on Monday to just display if you are returning to housing, to let us know. Right now, we have a cancellation process that goes through July 1st. We're extending that to August 1st to give people time to see how everything plays out over the summer in order if they're going to return to campus or not as a resident student. So be looking out for that email to come out for myself Monday at some point in the afternoon. So just if you have any questions, please feel free to contact us. The first two websites that are listed there, Return to Campus or Residence Life, you can find up-to-date information there. We post things there. Check our social media, or you can just call or email us to get any further information or answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Fred.
Yeah, thank
thought
you
I
both.
might-
No, go ahead. I have some questions,
yeah, I
and you have some
I
questions
probably
and
have some
follow-up. Yeah.
Maybe they're the same questions, but I guess one thing, Kathy, or Fred, you can answer this, about the dining. I think what our plan, and I just want you to follow up on this a little bit or expand on this a little bit, is that students will have a choice between dining in, and you mentioned we're still working on how to do this exactly, but to call in and make kind of reservations, so to speak, to the dining hall, or to do carry out. So it's essentially a choice, and then we'll just kind of see how it goes in terms of who's doing what. And is that accurate? I don't know if
Yeah, that's accurate. So it's almost kind of like the open table concept. So I can look online. I know they're working with various vendors to see how that service will look, but I can look online, see what tables are available, when the next table might be available. And if it doesn't work with my time schedule, then I can go in, grab food, and then take it back to my residence hall room. So those are the two options. So I could either eat in person through reservation, or that I can just go grab and go at all locations.
And the issue around that, as I understand it, Chris, you and I have talked about this briefly, is that whole issue of, and I guess I want to reemphasize this in terms of much of what you've said, Fred, and much of what Kathy has said, and I know the conversations have been going on, is this balancing act. I mean, Kathy said this, we want students to come back before campus starts and have fun. So part of it is we want the social aspect, so reserving a table and going and actually sitting with my friends at a table, and then the reason we're doing the reservations that we haven't done before is to maintain social distance. So it's this balance between keeping everybody healthy and letting them have a fun social life on campus. And that's what I kind of hear you saying, Fred, and what I've heard Kathy saying is, we are going to continue throughout the fall to balance out the health and safety of our students, faculty, and staff, and the enjoyment of the college experience and having fun on campus. And those things, though they may seem to be in tension, and they probably are in this COVID-19 climate, it's really important to us that you feel safe. The parents that are listening, the students that are listening, the employees that are listening, and you feel like you can have fun and meet your roommate. Well, we don't have many roommates. We have suite mates, I guess, in this situation. But you can get back together and enjoy the Lewis experience, because that's really important. We know and have heard from so many families that they really look forward to getting back on campus, that they want that experience, that they long to see their friends. They're living in Indiana right now, and their best friend is in Schaumburg, and they can't wait to get back to campus. And so that dining on campus, reserving a table, is just one element of how we approach that.
And I would just add to that, I completely agree with all of that. And then what I'm hearing from Fred and Kathy is this added element of flexibility and setting things up so that we can make adjustments and make choices along the way in order to serve student safety, as well as to build that community and to expand the engagement and the fun on the campus. I have at least one other question, and it's probably, Kathy is the last person to talk about it, but you both spoke about it. One of the more exciting and innovative things that we're doing here is the combination of the Cornerstone groupings and the residence halls. So could one of you talk again, you both mentioned it, a part of it, but could one of you talk again about how we're taking into consideration the students' major interest with where they're living, or who they're living with, and how they're placed in Cornerstone? And we might talk more about this next week, but just a little bit about what we know now about that would be great.
Yes, so we have Kathy mentioned, and also myself, talking about how we will assign first-year students by Cornerstone, by athletic group, and by roommate request. And that's one of the reasons why we pushing our housing assignments back. We usually come out June 1st with all of our first year housing assignments. We pushing that back to the July 1st because most students will have gone through SOAR and have a schedule so that I can pull that data and be able to house people in those common groups. So that's the driving force of why we're not rushing for our housing assignments and waiting, so we can see when people declare what major they want, what if they taking an 8 a.m. Cornerstone seminar, and we could try to place those people on floor and next to each other so that you have that common group that you already built within the residence hall.
And just to clarify, the Cornerstone seminar is our first year experience seminar that all first year students take in the first semester or through the year. And what Fred is also saying is that, so we're looking at grouping people in Cornerstone based on major interest, and then also having the housing assignments be connected to those cornerstones. It's common that we would have athletes live together, that we'll continue that practice, and especially for returning students, we'll continue the practice of allowing students to choose their roommates because they already have developed those relationships. But especially for new students, we're trying to group them so that students will be going to Cornerstone will be an in-person class. So they will be going to Cornerstone together and then also living together. So there will be a kind of living, learning community of first-year students. So even though they may not be in class quite as much as normal, they'll be together and living through that first few months of the college experience together with a close cohort.
So one of the, it's a great segue because now two of you have mentioned this in the last couple minutes. We had a question that came in, I assume from a student athlete, asking about athletics. Now, and I guess I want to say two things. One, we're going to have a whole show on athletics, and we're going to have our athletic director, John Planick, join us. And I think that's in 2 weeks. Is that what we have,
yeah, I think
Chris?
that's our rough plan.
And so we won't get into that in depth, but you've already heard Fred talk about, and now Chris talk about, that some athletes will be living together in housing. So, we won't get into the specifics today. I know there's a question about will there be athletics. I'm actually, after I leave this, I'm going to be on a 4-hour call this afternoon with the GLVC Council of Presidents. So all the presidents will be getting together, and we're firming up a lot of recommendations that have been made by the athletic directors and the faculty athletic reps, as well as the broader NCAA, to talk about what's going to be happening with athletics. But I will, say that the expectation that we have as a university and that the GLVC has is that we will be having athletics in the fall, and they will be modified in terms of the number of contests and some other things to make sure just the same balance. One of the fun things that people do is to come to Lewis University and be a part of a team, be a flyer on one of our 20+ athletic teams, club sports, etc. We're expecting that we will be having athletics, but we don't have all of the details lined up yet, and so we wanted to wait a couple weeks till we had more of the details and we could give you clear information. And so I think it'll be either the 2nd or 3rd week of June that we'll have Dr. Planick on with us to talk more about athletics. But because the question came in, I wanted to make sure we did that.
One thing we haven't mentioned as you're looking at the questions we've gotten some questions about the pricing of the residence halls in relationship to Thanksgiving. We will be publishing that by the end of next week, and Fred mentioned the staggered move-in dates. We will be essentially going to online instruction for most undergraduate students after the Thanksgiving break. Students will be allowed to petition to stay or apply to stay through Christmas, and there will be pricing based on how long students are staying. So that will be probably the Residence Life website, I imagine, Fred, is where that will be located next week.
So another question that has come in, Chris, and you may know this, or Kathy and Fred may have this. So international student asked, will we have to quarantine before we join the community if we're coming as an international student. So, I mean, and I'm sure they're trying to figure out if I'm buying a ticket to fly
Yeah, it's a
to
great
Chicago, do I have to quarantine before I even go to my first Cornerstone class or go to my first practice if I'm an athlete? And again, we may not have that answer today, but we can certainly come back to it next week. But because a question came in, I wanted to ask.
Fred or Kathy, I don't know if you want to answer that. It's very case by case. I mean, we will be following the CDC guidelines around, especially international travel, but I know it's also part of our advice for all students moving in around health monitoring before moving in. But do you want to add anything to that? It doesn't look like they want to add it.
No, it doesn't look like
No,
it.
our plan was just provide more specific information, just like you were just saying, as we
Okay.
move closer to that.
And if anyone's,
So, yeah, we
if a
can-
student is interested, they can contact the Residence Life staff and
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely, and we'll work
Maybe,
with them. Like if they're coming in early for some reason, yes.
And maybe, and I want to, because so I don't forget, I want to thank John and Joe, who are behind the scenes, our producers of this show on a weekly basis, Joe Glatz and John Kilpatrick today. But maybe you could put back up the slide that has the contact information. So if anybody has any questions, not only if you're coming internationally, into O'Hare or Midway and then coming to campus, and you have questions about what all that means, the contact information is on here. But any other questions that parents or students have about moving into the residence halls, the staff is happy to answer your questions offline. We're trying to answer them now. Oh yeah, so we had a question, it's a great question. A parent question, can we make the residence life slides available to view on our own?
sure.
So,
Yes.
and where would that be? Under the COVID-19 site?
We'd probably put them on the, John, if you can put that slide back, or no, do we have a slide for the return to campus?
Well, we had those 4 or 5,
Yeah.
They just wanted like the whole the
Yeah,
slide
no, I understand. The return to campus website.
Oh yeah, that'd be the place to go.
Would probably be the place to go. We can put them in both locations, but we
But
can do
for
that.
those of you
can do that
online
today.
right now, we'll try to get the slide deck that we've shown today up onto the lewis.edu return to campus section of the Lewis University website. And it's a great idea that maybe we'll add all of the slide decks for all the future
Yeah.
shows to the return to campus, and it'll just say Conversations from Stritch, 28th of May.
Yeah, we can put the last one on
and
there
we'll
as
put a
well.
little, this is about residence life, or this is about athletics, so that
yeah.
you'll have those in the future and you can reference them in the future. Any last minute comments from our guests? Fred and Kathy, we're so grateful that you joined us today. Really great to have you and great information. And we say this every week, but a special thank you to the two of you and your teams. I know you've been doing amazing, I hear from so many people that they're working harder, many of them, in this COVID time than they did in the past. But just want to thank you both for all the work, as well as all the people that you work with, your colleagues, for all that you're putting into making our students safe, but also have fun. So thank you both.
Thanks, Dave. Thanks, Chris. And I just would add my words of appreciation for all that Fred's doing with his team. It's really been amazing. So I appreciate his leadership with Residence Life. So thanks.
Chris,
Thank
any
you.
closing comments?
No, I just really, just to return to those themes of safety, community, and flexibility, I think are just what we're always coming back to. And I'm really proud of what Kathy and Fred are doing and what our other areas on campus are doing to ensure that as we go forward.
Yeah, and echo that, and just say again, as I drove onto campus today, and the campus is beautiful, but it really is not the campus that we want, because we want all of you to be back, and we're working very hard to assure that you'll remain healthy when you return to campus. But we are excited about having you back. We miss you. We hope you have a wonderful summer, and many blessings on you and your family Have a great week, and we'll see you next week on Thursday for another conversation from Stretch. Goodbye, everybody.